Hello everyone, this is Rachel Jackson of Principles of Behavior Management, Class 623, B Term of 2021. In this Behavior Management Philosophy presentation, we will discuss the class description, exceptionalities, cultural diversity, philosophy of behavior management, building relationships, classroom arrangement, fairness, core classroom concepts, a sample letter to families, and educational loss. Our classroom scenario consists of a middle school 6th grade history class. This consists of 17 students, 10 girls and 7 boys. Within the classroom, there are 2 students with autism, 1 English language student, 3 gifted and talented students, and 5 students recovering from personal trauma. Autism spectrum disorders consist of neurological development disorders. There can be mild and more aggressive types of ASDs. Scientists don't know what causes these ASDs. These students may experience difficulty with social interaction and restrictive and repetitive behaviors at school and at home. English language learners are students who are needing support with the English language. These students are a part of the general classroom for the entire school day. They will work with the ELL teacher during a study hall and their classroom teacher for additional support. As a classroom teacher, it's important to recognize that our gifted and talented students may or may not have additional learning disabilities and behavior challenges. Oftentimes, these disabilities and behavior challenges are masking a student who really needs more challenges and leadership opportunities. Many students have experienced some type of trauma in their personal lives. Types of trauma include a child from a military family, foster care, homelessness, loss of a loved one. Collaborating with the school counselor is essential in providing a successful learning environment for these students. There is a rich cultural diversity in this classroom. I believe in a culturally responsive management framework that incorporates elements of students' home, personal, and community lives in the classroom. Oftentimes, misbehavior is assessed due to differences between the culture of the teacher and the culture that the students come from. Our worldview has a major influence on our teaching philosophy. Having a biblical worldview shapes the philosophy of Christian education. Based on this worldview, I believe every child belongs and is a unique individual in the classroom. My goal as a teacher is for each of my students to feel like they belong and for us to work together to build an inclusive community within the classroom. I believe in building relationships with the students in my classroom. I believe relationships supersede information. I will use a balance of subject-based instruction and project-based collaboration. I will guide and direct my learners with considerations regarding their experiences at home and their extracurricular activities so that they can become successful, independent learners. I believe in treating my students fairly, but not the same, because students are not the same. God created each student unique, and therefore their behaviors and motivations are different. Relying on a standard method removes considering what is best for each student, and I believe it needs to be avoided. In setting up my classroom, I believe that it's important to keep in mind the proximity I will have with each of my students. I love a circular or semicircular desk arrangement because this promotes whole class dialogue and community. My philosophy of behavior management will also influence the core classroom components. These components consist of rules, procedures, the rewards and consequences I'll use, and how I will do my record keeping. I believe classroom rules need to be simple and to the point. As a class, we will discuss what the rule should be and why at the beginning of the school year. I'll post a few rules up on the classroom wall. We'll also have the students create and sign a contract. And this gives the students a buy-in and promotes community within the classroom. Even for a history class, it's important to have classroom procedures. This would include the class time schedule, praying for my students, expectations, entering and exiting the class, job assignments, and making sure that there are hall passes for bathroom and nurses' visits. Having a reward system is important to make learning fun and to motivate students to learn about history. I believe that this can be a creative way to incorporate the units that the students are learning about. I also believe that consequences will vary based on each student and each situation. I believe it is important to keep good records of my students' work and their behavior. Having an effective grading and measurement system eliminates miscommunications with students and their families. I believe that collaboration with my fellow teachers, administrators, and counselors is very important in becoming successful and is in the best interest of my students. Trusting and building relationships with the other teachers and my administrators encourages an environment of collaboration and growth. I believe it is important to think of parents and families as partners in the students' education and in the school culture. Conferences can be less awkward once communication is set up at the beginning of the school year and is consistent. This creates a culture of trust and community. This is a sample of what a weekly communication email would look like to the families of my students. It would be very brief and lighthearted, summarizing what we have learned that week and what to expect for the next week. In this email, there will be information about my behavior management philosophy, student communication, and some fun facts about myself. I believe it's important as a teacher to understand educational laws. I believe a student with disabilities has the inherent right to learn and be included just like any other child. The laws, services, and service models are not only essential to their success, it is based on a biblical worldview. IDEA, the Individuals with Education Act, was passed in 2004. This is an improvement to the 4 other acts that superseded it since 1975. This law provides parents the ability to become more involved in their child's education and provides more accountability to teachers and administrators for results and to reduce paperwork loads. FAP stands for Free Appropriate Public Education. IDEA offers all students with disabilities a free appropriate public education. It's important for a teacher to understand that the main reason for this 2004 revision was to ensure students were assessed for special education services and could receive services like an Individualized Education Program, IEP. An IEP team will meet annually to discuss the best setting a student with learning disabilities will receive. The Least Restrictive Environment, LRE, is a concept of this law that encourages students with disabilities to have access to the general classroom as much as possible. LRE is key to including students with disabilities in the general classroom. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation on the philosophy of behavior management in my classroom. We discussed the description of my classroom, how I will communicate with the families of my students, how I will collaborate with other educators, my classroom arrangement, my rules and procedures, and we also reviewed the different special education laws.